Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Merry Draftmas, everyone. It is draft week. We are there. This is the last episode before the draft party, which is day 2 of the NFL draft, presented by First Star Logistics, where you can watch and stream with us and enjoy and react with us in real time. It's always stressful on my end, because I want to be happy, but then sometimes they make picks. I still remember the Miles Murphy year, and I'm like, I don't know if he's a good pass rusher. I don't know if that would have been the pick I was going to make. And then in round 2, they went DJ Turner and Jordan Battle, which I was okay with at the time. I didn't love either guy, but I was like, yeah, that's fine. Those are fine day 2 picks. And then last year's was Jermaine Burton, McKinley Jackson, and Chris Jenkins, which again, I remember at the end of that show, I was like, so far, nothing impressive. And I felt bad afterwards. Like, geez, these people are celebrating. They're excited. I'm excited too. But I have my opinions on the draft, and I have my opinions on these players because I do so much work. I put it all in there, and you guys have been along for the ride for all of it. And so make sure you check out the live stream on the First Star Media YouTube channel. But now we're going to set the board. What I think, just me alone. I'm going to do other projects you're going to see around the internet where I'm working with a team of people trying to figure out the Bengals board. This is just me putting my opinion on it while also trying to get close to what I think. This is the prep process for a lot of that. The Bengals are doing this right now. They're getting together. They're hammering out all these scenarios. So I'm going to try and hammer it out. And then we're going to do a 1-round mock draft to get us to 17 and then use our board, right? So I'm going to walk through what I'm thinking with trying to get them 17 players that they may draft. Although we're going to have quarterbacks and receivers go. We'll talk about that. And then do a mock real quick and be like, okay, based on our board, this is who we're picking. So let's dive in. I'll walk you through the process right now. All right, first thing you need to know when the Bengals set their board and the process they use is they put first rounders into 3 different buckets, or all rounders in the buckets. You have your 1A grouping, you have your 1B grouping, and then you have your 1C grouping down at the bottom there. And you don't want to go into a next bucket, right? So if all these guys are gone from A, right, just eliminate them. And you're not going to drop to, say, like half of these guys are here. Say, like, just it's Malachi Starks versus Jahad Campbell, for an example. You're going to take Malachi Starks, or else you believe Campbell's a 1B player. So we'll get to all that. We'll go through the process. Start with 1A. These are your blue chip guys, if they are available. At pick 17, will the Bengals draft Travis Hunter at corner? I actually think the Bengals would be awesome for Travis Hunter. This is your 30 seconds to get excited about a player that will not be there at 17. Well, Hunter at corner for a cornerback number 1, and then a third receiver. That's how he's able to do it in the NFL. Is he's number 1 corner, and then you slowly trickle him into package plays in certain situations. Try and cover Jamar Chase, Travis Hunter, and T. Higgins. Oh, that would be a good time. Bengals will take him if he's there. Not going to be there. Abdul Carter, agreed. Bengals are going to take him if he's there. We don't even have to split hairs about who would be 1 or 2. I think they would take either guy. No problem. Ashton Genty, next. Would they take Ashton Genty if he's there at 17? I think they would. I think he'd be high in their board. I think they'd see it as a complete, give me an elite player, give me a potential top 5 player at that position. Why wouldn't I take it? I think they would take it. Mason Graham being next here at 5. I do think if Mason Graham was there, they would be all aboard and would jump on him. I think he's an elite prospect in this class. I think they would agree with that. Will Campbell, the left tackle from LSU. I also believe Will Campbell and Armand Membo, we can put them together here. I think they both make really good guards for the Bengals. We're talking from a Bengals perspective and other teams that may be in that situation. And then develop them, and maybe they kick out to tackle in a couple of years. Membo more of a right tackle, played right tackle at Mizzou. Campbell playing left tackle. So I think they'd have Campbell over Membo. Although some teams, I'm pretty sure some teams have Membo over Will Campbell. So I'm going to end that 1A tier like that. And we're going to talk about 1B guys. And any of these guys should potentially be in the 1A tier. Guys like Jalen Walker, the edge linebacker out of Georgia, which everyone says he's going to go top 10. There's been reports he's going to be the first non-Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter player taken. So not quarterback, not top 2 player. He's going to be the first one. Is he going to go in number 4, 5, 6? Take him. I don't want him. I don't. If this was all me, he would not even be on my first. He'd probably be in 1C, maybe. But he would not be in my 1A or 1B. 1A and 1B are the targets, the guys I'd love to have for the Bengals at 17. I'm not with Jalen Walker. I think the Bengals would. I think the Bengals would be on Jalen Walker, and that's why I have him high here. He's supposed to go high, and I think the Bengals would take him if he was there. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, probably the hardest guys for me to peg for the Bengals in this tier grouping, because I think Daniel Jeremiah said both are in every team's top 10. Very clean prospects, good prospects in a weak class. What does that mean? It means that everyone's going to agree they're good players. But does that mean they go top 10? I don't think it does. I think tight end we've seen fall. Even Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect we've seen in a long time. The Kyle Pitts correction was that Bowers is going to go outside the top 10 now. Too far. He should have been a top 6 pick. Does it correct the other way now? And now Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who are not Brock Bowers, they're not, go too high? Do they go higher than what Bowers did? Maybe the weakness of this class facilitates that. I don't like it. I don't think they're worthy of that. I think they're worthy of pick 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, potentially 17. So I do think they'd be high on the Bengals board. The hard question here, so I'm putting them in 1B. The hard question here is, do they take one of the tight ends over Calvin Banks Jr.? Right? We've seen them like tight ends in Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid. They didn't trade up for those guys. Tucker Kraft. They didn't make a move to go get them, make sure they secured them. They liked Brock Bowers. They weren't going to draft him over Amarius Mims. So I don't think they would. And I'm going to put Banks number 2 on this list and move him over these tight ends. Now, would they separate Warren and Loveland? I think everyone likes Warren a little bit more. So would Warren go above Banks? Again, I don't think so. I think they take Banks first. And now I've got the duo here, and I'm going to keep them together for now. Both play defensive tackle of Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan. Would the Bengals take Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland over Derek Harmon and Walter Nolan? I think this is much closer now than the Banks conversation. But at the same time, I don't know that they would. Now, if I believe they have one of these guys above the other, say they like both, but they have Walter Nolan as a top 12 guy, and maybe Harmon's a top 18 guy. That's close, but there's a gap there. And in that case, I think they would have Walter Nolan above the tight ends. I think one of the strongest feelings I have as we enter draft week, well, I'm recording this on Sunday, on Easter. Happy Easter to everyone too. Is that Walter Nolan is high on the Bengals board. And I felt this way the entire time. The first player we watched on Bengals on the Brain, the draft process, was who? Walter Nolan. I answered that too quickly. I should have given you a second. But I did because I believed they were going to like him and that they would like him. And I think the process has shown us that as they met with him at the combine and had a 30 visit with Nolan. Now, he had some character things to answer. So maybe that was it. Maybe that's all that was. I think they like Walter Nolan. It's not like we're looking for perfect prospects here. Marius Mims is not a perfect prospect. They still took him. Dax Hill, Miles Murphy, none of these guys are perfect prospects because that's a fallacy, right? You're not going to find a perfect prospect. So would they take Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland over Derek Harmon? Maybe. I think they would. I'm going to hold it there for now, and we'll talk about the other guys. Nick Emanwari and Malachi Starks. Do I think both deserve to be in the 1B category? I do. I think the Bengals will have Malachi Starks pretty high. Do I think he'd be higher than Derek Harmon? I think there's potential for that. I think there's potential that Malachi Starks is a top 12 to 13 player on their board. And that could put him over even Colston Loveland. Would they maybe take Tyler Warren? Potentially, yeah. I think Warren, for everyone, consensus is a little bit higher. Malachi Starks, pretty close up there. And then you got Colston Loveland, Derek Harmon, Nick Emanwari. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. Do any of these 1C guys deserve to be in that conversation where we're talking about them versus Emanwari and Derek Harmon? And Colston Loveland even. And Malachi Starks, if you want to feel that way. If you feel a little lower on those guys than I do. I think Jahad Campbell and Mike Green are the ones that deserve. But you see they have a little red tag on them. Jahad Campbell, from all the information we've had, has dealt with numerous shoulder injuries. He had a broken hand, which whatever. The one was a full labrum tear that he had surgery on, which means he's going to miss time his rookie year. And then a knee issue. He had a knee scope a couple years ago, which is routine, but apparently that there is more going on with that knee. He had to have rechecks on it and things like that. Teams had some concerns, it sounds like, based on reports and smokescreen stuff. Who knows if it's real or not? Otherwise, Jahad Campbell is a top 12 player in this class, no doubt about it. I think there's a scenario where they still take Jahad Campbell. They took John Ross with injury issues. They took Marius Mims with injury issues. It does not stop them before. As long as their medical team passes them, they could take him. But if he was clean, he'd be somewhere here, I think, between Walker, Banks, Nolan, right? He'd be with that grouping, the top of 1B. But I have to put him on a sub board because I don't know. I can't answer the injury questions. So if he ends up a little bit lower and they do draft him, that means he was a little bit higher on this board. I feel the same about Mike Green. I think if Mike Green had no character issues and no past that needed to be answered, he'd be in the grouping with Walter Nolan, Kelvin Banks, and Jalen Walker, and then Jahad Campbell. I think that would be an elite tier. And then you could throw Tyler Warren in there too. I think that would be an elite tier. I feel the same about Josh Simmons. And in fact, Simmons is still injured. So you could put a little pink tag on him as well. The only reason why he's still available and why he's still here is because he's dealing with the patella tendon and didn't get to test before the draft, right? I made the receivers gray because the Bengals should not be taking a receiver. Let's put them down far just in case everyone's gone, which is not possible because I think you get to 17 before then, so someone will be there. But you've got to rank them. In a crazy scenario, say you trade it back and Ted McMillan's still there at 27, well, then maybe I'd consider it. Why not? I'd probably have other guys available, but you got to have them on the board. So of the injured grouping or question, the red flag grouping of 1C, they deserve talent-wise to be with the 1B group. No doubt in my mind. I have different questions on these three guys in 1C. The Michael Williams, the Shamar Stewart, the Will Johnsons. Production. A little bit of health with Will Johnson. He didn't test fully. Speed questions with Will Johnson. Scheme fit with Will Johnson. Although he was really good in man coverage, will he still be that in the NFL? So let's see. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players just right there. And that doesn't include if a receiver goes in two. What do we need? We need 16 to go. So we need a receiver and one quarterback. And if all that happens and these guys are all gone, which I don't expect, that leaves us choosing between the 1C grouping. So if it goes in this order, plus one receiver and one quarterback, then we're choosing between this 1C group. That's why it's important. Would the Bengals have Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart over Jahad Campbell, Mike Green, Josh Simmons? I think there is potential for that. You telling me the Bengals who draft the way they do don't see Shamar Stewart as like, oh yeah, we'd take Shamar Stewart and we'd figure it out. We've done it with Miles Murphy, but we'll do it again. I think they would be above. Mike Green, would he be above Mike Green and Josh Simmons? I think there's potential for that. I think the same from Michael Williams. Put him with that grouping. I don't know which one they take, Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart, but I think they take both. And then Will Johnson being in that, next tier. And you could almost say these guys are 1B because then there's a difference between McMillan and everyone else. Right? Would they take Jahdae Barron, Josh Connerly, Gray Zabel, Tyler Booker, Kenneth Grant? I think they would in some scenarios. If they had to, would they take Connerly or Tet McMillan? I think they take Connerly, right? Would they take him or Grant or Jahdae Barron? I think we're going to put Tet McMillan all the way at the bottom of 1C because the Bengals don't want to draft a receiver. They don't want to have to. And then anyone in the second round that deserves to be in there. James Pierce deserves to be way higher. Sounds like he's much lower for everyone. Maxwell Harrison, Donovan Jackson. Does Donovan Jackson deserve to be with the Gray Zabels? There's a case to be made for that. Trey Amos, Xavier Watts, Tate Ratledge, Kevin Winston. More of these guys are 2B, which we're not going to get to today. We could get to the second round and follow it. But let's run through one more time and make sure we're clear before we try and do a mock draft. Jalen Walker, Calvin Banks, Walter Nolan, Tyler Warren, Malachi Starks, Colston Loveland, Derek Harmon, Nick Emanwari. Do I think it goes in that direction? Would they take Emanwari over Harmon? There's potential for that. I don't see, it doesn't have to be Harmon over Emanwari. I think they like Emanwari. I think they like Starks. I think they'd take Loveland in a certain scenario. Or are we picking from this grouping? I expect Shamar Stewart and Micah Williams to be gone. And if they are, that helps push a couple of these B guys down to us. But if you get there and say this is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 guys, 20, would you be happy with Will Johnson? Do we get to 20 guys that we'd be happy with at pick 17, and we're not even including quarterbacks and dropping receivers big time here? I think I'd take it. Let's go to a mock draft and see how this goes. All right, we're on FanSpeak where I've got a Bengals consensus board here. If you're looking for a mock draft in the last few days, that is going to be, in my opinion, as accurate as any, or at least how I expect the draft to go. And yes, I'm looking at the right camera now this time. I didn't realize last time, but when I was editing, I was like, oh, I had the wrong camera in the settings. So we're back to the good camera. Not that it matters for you guys. Let's start it. I don't expect to trade up or anything. We got it going slow. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders. Shador goes to the Giants. Will Campbell to the Patriots. Abdul Carter all the way to 5. Maybe that foot injury is hurting his stock. He goes to 5 to the Jaguars. That leaves what? Just Armand Membo and Ashton Genty. And there goes Jalen Walker, our first 1B player. Like I said, I expect him to go early, so it really doesn't matter to us. Do I think the Bengals have an elite grade on him? I don't know. Armand Membo. That's it for our 1A. Oh, as soon as Genty. I keep forgetting Genty always. Are we going to be... Oh, and Mason Graham is still there. Look at this. Hey, Mason Graham gets a 10 in real life. I'm into it. Tyler Warren, though, goes to the Panthers. Good. I didn't want to have to make that decision, right? There goes Mason Graham right to the Saints at 9. They come to their senses. Don't force the quarterback pick. Plus, Shador's not there. So would it have been Shador? Would it have been Jackson Dart? We'll have to see. And then there goes Genty. So now all the 1A guys are gone. And we're into the 1B. But we've had 2 quarterbacks go, which is a good thing for us because that helps us get there. Jahad Campbell goes 11 to the 49ers. But then we get a gift. Amarian Hampton goes 12 to the Cowboys, which means we're looking good so far. We've got Loveland, Tet McMillan, not that we're drafting Tet, Micah Williams, Shamar Stewart, Matthew Golden, Will Johnson, Calvin Banks still on the board. There goes Matthew Golden to the Dolphins. Interesting. Kenneth Grant to the Colts at 14. Bit of a gift there. He wasn't on our radar, although some people really love Kenneth Grant. Colston Loveland to the Falcons. They're done with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is on the block. I'm going to make a call for that one, right? And then 16 is Michael Williams to the Arizona Cardinals. Man, interesting first round of the draft. Puts the Bengals squarely looking at a very scary situation with Shamar Stewart still available. Will Johnson, Calvin Banks, Walter Nolan, Jahdae Barron, Mike Green, Nick Emanwari, Derek Harmon, Josh Simmons, and even James Pierce, Malachi Starks. This to me is the ultimate trade back scenario. Now, I don't know who would come up. Does someone want to come up and get Will Johnson? Maybe I could see that happening. Does someone want to come up and get Shamar Stewart? Maybe. I can't say it, but maybe. Do the Bengals love Calvin Banks and Walter Nolan more than Will Johnson and Shamar Stewart? Remember, we have our board here, so we'll go back and forth. If we just followed our board, we would just pick Calvin Banks here. But with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys remaining in the 1B section, if a team was offering, would you not go back 3 spots, pick up a 3rd or 4th round pick, still get one of your 1B guys? You're only going to lose 3 of them at most. You're only going to lose, let's say Banks goes, Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon goes. You could pick between Nick Emanwari, Malachi Starks. Would you not do that? I think this is the scenario I come to all the time when I'm doing these mocks, is I get to 17 and I say, I still love 10 players here. Maybe it's 7, maybe it's 5 for you. Maybe you're a little bit more critical because I scroll down a little bit further. I still love Gray Zabel in a trade back. I love Josh Connerly in a trade back. Donovan Jackson I'd consider. Tyler Booker's still there. He's going to fall a little bit, right? I would take a lot of these guys. Now, the exercise here was to just follow the board and go with it. We can do that, and we would draft Kelvin Banks and plug him in at left guard and say, let's just go. But I'm going to explore, give you a little bonus here. So we would say that is what it would tell us to do. Take Kelvin Banks and keep running. I'm going to say we do get a trade back scenario. I'm going to explore that real fast and then pick this back up. So in this weaker class, let's say the Chargers offer a 4th round pick to move up. You're moving down 5 spots. Let's see how that goes afterwards. Let's see how much of an impact it has. As a few of our guys go off the board here with Tet McMillan. So the Chargers go up and get a receiver. Interesting. They need a receiver. Getting Tet McMillan. Maybe they see him as a top 15 guy. He's still there, 1st round grade. They want to move up and get their guy. Jahdae Barron goes next. So, okay. Will Johnson goes next. We're good. Derek Harmon. Hey, I like Derek Harmon, but he's gone. Nicky Manwari, gone. That still leaves us with Kelvin Banks, who I just saw on a top 100 board as I was uploading the last one and then getting ready for this one. I checked a new top 100 board. Kelvin Banks was about 20th on that board. We're sitting at 22. Walter Nolan was 5th on that board. If the Bengals agree with that guy, they're drafting Walter Nolan. They're drafting him at 17. You got your number 5 guy there at 17. They're taking him. They're not taking that 4th round pick. In this scenario, though, we explored it. And Shamar Stewart was 28th. So not crazy that he's still here. Look at the talent, though, remaining. Very, very good talent remaining. We're sticking with our board. That's why we do all the work. While we scout everyone, we build the draft risk assessment board and put all the data in it, and then we argue it with our team leading up for the draft. And it said, take Banks if he's still there. And you would argue this scenario. You'd spend hours on what if it's Banks and Nolan? What if those are our 2 options? And you would argue it and argue it and argue it until you came up with a consensus as a team. This is a Bengals pick. It's not his pick. It's not your pick. It's not your pick. At the end, we're going to come to an agreement before we're on the clock. You're not going to argue it while you're on the clock. You only got a few minutes. You may say, we're all good. Good. Make the call. You already knew who you were taking because you've argued it out for the weeks preceding the draft. I'd like to read your comments, though. In this scenario, if it's Banks, Stewart, Walter Nolan, Mike Green, Josh Simmons, Malachi Starks, who are you taking? Do you think my board's right here? Are we close? This says take Banks. Take Banks to the bank. Protect Joe Burrow. We're trying to get a defensive tackler D-end in round 2. That means, and I'm not going to simulate. Maybe we'll simulate it. It's going. Walter Nolan goes to the Eagles. Of course he does. Of course Walter Nolan is still there for the Eagles. I'm giving you bonus drafting. Why not? Let's roll. I just want to see who's there when we get there. Schlesinger goes 39. Mason Taylor, 41. TJ Sanders, 42. Donovan Jackson, 44. Tyler Booker, 48. 1 pick ahead of the Bengals. He slides all the way down, declining these trades. On top of the board, Travion Henderson, number 36, a clear BPA. Is this the scenario where they take a running back? If their 36 guy is still there at 49, do you take that over Landon Jackson, Jonas Sebenaya, Xavier Watts, Tate Ratledge? I mean, you've already drafted Kelvin Banks. So is it just Xavier Watts? Or do you give him someone to run behind between Henderson and Banks? Do you go to Winston, Princely Uman Milan? Oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not making the pick. We're cutting it there. So if the Bengals did go Kelvin Banks at 17, I would probably give that an A pick. There's not a lot of guys I would give an A to. That's a whole discussion. That's a whole other piece of content, honestly. And I like to do this every year, is grade the players before the draft, right? Because if you're waiting till after the draft, everyone's an A. It always feels like an A. So I try to grade it before that. I think I said last year that Mims was a B or a B minus before the draft. Why? Because he had a lot of questions. He didn't have a lot of true pass sets in the Bengals situation, and that's what they do. He has he had injuries and not a lot of snaps, not a lot of high end play that you could be sure of. Having said that, I still think he was worth the pick. It's just that what gets you an A, one of those A plus would be one of those blue chip players, one of the 1A players still being there. That's an A plus, right? Will Campbell's still there. It's an A plus pick. generally most picks are B picks. You got the right value. You took a player of need. It's a player I like. B. It's a B pick. Calvin Banks to me would be an A minus range. I think he's really good. I think he'd protect Joe Burrow. I think he's got high upside. I'd be for it. He checks every box. Do it. So now Walter Nolan to me is like a B plus pick. Like that's someone I really want. So if Calvin Banks is an A minus, Walter Nolan to me is a B plus. I'd really like to have Walter Nolan on this team. I take Derek Harmon. That's a B pick. Malachi Starks. Lesser position of need, but a player I really like. Probably a B to B minus. Nicky Manwari is a B. Guys like Shamar Stewart, Mykal Williams would be D. I would be frightened of those picks. Will Johnson probably be a C plus. Like him. Not sure of the fit. Not sure how he's going to transition to the NFL. Have some questions. And then the guys with the red flags, I don't know. But round 2 there, we get to round 2. I thought they had some great options there. Kind of makes me not want to take Calvin Banks in round 1 because the guard options at 49 are great. You almost got Tyler Booker. You want 1 pick ahead of the Bengals. I think Bengals would sprint to the podium on Booker. They don't care how he tested. They've drafted Andre Smith, Jonah Williams, Jackson Carman, and Billy Price. You think they care how Tyler Booker tested? They don't care. I didn't make a great case that it's the right decision, but do they care? No. So that would be fun to react on when we do our live stream of day 2 from the Handlebar Great American Ballpark, First Star Logistics Annual Draft Party. I'll see you guys there. That'll be the next time you see me. Hope you tune in. Watch. We got some prizes to give away. I don't know if you saw the golf cart. I'm going to tell the story real quick about the golf cart if I can. I don't know if Kevin will be embarrassed here, but I'm at Lowe's in Buffalo, right? And they got this Bills golf cart. And I'm like, yo, this thing is sick. I mean, it's not just a wrapped golf cart. This thing has leather seats with stitching of the Bills logos in it and stuff. It's got like a music box behind your head with speakers. It's a party wagon. Two row seats. So anyways, Lowe's has a thing there. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, this thing is expensive. But it's awesome. And it says they have every team. So I looked it up real fast, got the link on Lowe's, and I sent it to Kevin from First Star. And I said, hey, Kevin, you should get this. And he goes, how about I give it away at the draft party? And I'm like, you are crazy. And there it is. So we've got it. That's going to be, someone's going to drive home in that thing. Or they'll deliver it. It's a logistics company. They can deliver it, right? Until then, until day 2, that'll be the next time you see me. I'll be excited. But also, I'll bring the realism because that's what I do. Until then, Who Dey.
Who Dey, Bengals Nation. Join us for the 3rd annual First Star Logistics Bengals Draft Party, streaming only on First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. On Friday, April 25th, Day 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft. And we're bringing the heat with all things about your Cincinnati Bengals. Join us for your chance to win epic prizes, including the ultimate Bengals fan prize, a Cincinnati Bengals themed golf cart. We're also giving away Eric All Jr. and Andre Iosivas jerseys, a Jamar Chase signed football, a Joe Burrow signed helmet, a Bengals golf bag, and Bengals themed PS5 and Xbox consoles. Subscribe now to First Star Media Group on YouTube. To participate, watch the biggest Bengals Draft Party, presented by First Star Logistics.